Did you miss me? Hey, good morning. It's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right. It's me, Uncle Lou, and I'm live for you on YouTube today. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it also. And in addition to that as well, subscribe to this channel if you're not already. I post college football videos almost every single day of the year. Sometimes they're even watchable. This one might not be. The echo is really bad in here. I'm working on that. And I haven't uploaded a video in a while. I think it's been about a week. The last video I uploaded was when the SEC announced their schedule. And, of course, I was just pacing back and forth in the yard. But I have my new studio. I had a studio built in my backyard just for work, just for YouTube. I'm finishing it up. Hopefully within another week or so, I'll be done, and I'll give you guys a tour. I'll show you some of the things I've done in here. I'm really, really happy with the way it's turned out so far, and I can't wait to show it to you guys. But that's not the point. Today, we're going to update the top 10 poll, the official Uncle Lou top 10 poll, which, of course, is the only one that matters. Now, I did one about a month ago, my preseason poll, and every Monday during the season, I update that poll. Now, under normal conditions, we would have just had the week 0 games this past weekend. They were all canceled. We had an FCS game, or we had Austin P and Central Arkansas, whatever it was. And we do have some games coming up this weekend, the weekend that would have been week 1. We have some games actually starting on Thursday. I'm going to treat this like a normal week, though. I'm going to update my top 10 today. Now, none of the teams in my top 10 have played yet, but in between the time that I made my preseason top 10 poll and today, of course, we've had a lot of news within the top 10. The Big Ten and the Pac-12 are not playing. Now, I had multiple teams in my top 10 from those two conferences. I had Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon. We're all within my top 10. So going to have to take those teams out. Nothing personal against those teams. I just don't see the point in ranking teams that aren't playing. So there will be some changes within the top 10. There's been some other teams in the top 10, too, who have had players announce that they're not going to play this year. Will that affect their ranking in the Uncle Lou poll? We're going to find those things out. If this is your first year, subscribe to the Uncle Lou channel. Let me just give you a brief rundown of what we do during the season here. On this channel, which is the main channel where I upload videos, every Monday I'll update my top 10 list. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday I do preview and prediction videos for the coming weekend's games. On Friday, I typically make a trash talk video about whatever team Georgia is playing. Georgia, of course, my favorite team. And then on Saturday, I upload reaction videos all throughout the day based on how the games go. That's on this channel. Now, of course, I have a second channel where I do live shows. A lot of you are already subscribed to that second channel. If you're not, though, now's a good time to subscribe to that second channel. I'll put a link down in the description below. The second channel is called Uncle Lou on LouTube, and I have several shows that I do multiple days a week over on that second channel. I've got the morning show that I do with BVD, a Tennessee fan. We do that Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at 8 a.m. I've got my call-in show that I've been doing for years. I do that on Tuesday and Thursday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern. And I'm starting a new show with Clemson fan Pigskin Pete. A lot of you guys know who that is. Me and Pigskin Pete will be doing a show 2 days a week on the live channel, Uncle Lou on LouTube, Tuesdays and Thursdays at noon, 12 o'clock. Lunch Money with Pigskin Pete and Uncle Lou. It premieres actually tomorrow. And it's going to be a show primarily focused on gambling, particularly sports gambling. We'll talk about some other things, too, but that's sort of the basis and the theme of the show. Check that out, Tuesdays, Thursdays, me and Pigskin Pete at noon. And during the season, once it starts, I do a couple of live shows on Saturdays. I do one in the morning, sort of a college game day live show where I stream while college game day is on, and I talk with you guys about that day's games. And then Saturday night, once the primetime games end around 10 or 10:30, I do a wrap-up show, which is a call-in show. I have you guys call in, and we talk about the results of the day's games. All of those live shows take place on the second channel, Uncle Lou on LouTube. Make sure you're subscribed. All right, here we go, top 10 time. Now, as usual, I'm going to put my last poll up on the screen. In case you guys didn't see that video, this will give you a reference point of where I was starting at when I sat down to make today's poll. To recap, my preseason poll about a month ago, right? I had Notre Dame 10, LSU 9, Oklahoma 8, Penn State 7, Florida 6, Oregon 5, Georgia 4, Ohio State 3, Clemson 2, Bama 1. And I explained why I had the teams ranked where I did within that video. Most of you, I'm sure, saw it. So how much is the poll going to change? Well, we know that Penn State's going out, Oregon's going out, and Ohio State is going out. So at least 3 teams going out. That means 3 new teams coming into the top 10. Will any of these other teams move around based on players we've learned that maybe aren't playing or some other reason? Let's find out. You know how we do it. We're going to start at number 10, and we're going to work our way through the list all the way down to number 1. Number 10. Oh, let me say this. I found it extremely difficult to make a top 10 poll without the Big Ten and the Pac-12. There are certain teams that we're just used to having in the top 10 almost all the time, right? Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Michigan to some degree. When you start taking these teams away, it becomes very difficult to do a top 10 or even a top 25. So some of these teams have never been in an Uncle Lou top 10 before, but they're in it now. And after I do the top 10, people always ask me, where would such and such team be ranked if you did a top 25? After I run through my top 10, I'm just going to put up on the screen 11 through 25. I'm not explaining why I have some particular team ranked 13 instead of 15. I'm not doing that. I explain why I have teams ranked where I do in the top 10. I'm not doing that for the top 25, and I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't put nearly as much time, effort, thought, or energy into 11 through 25 as I do 1 through 10. So argue with me if you want to in the comment section. But at the end of the video, I'll show you 11 through 25. But number 10, I have Oklahoma State. Now, I'm not sure if Oklahoma State's ever been in an Uncle Lou top 10 or not, but I was high on Oklahoma State this offseason. They have probably the best running back in the Big 12 returning in Chuba Hubbard. They have a pretty good quarterback. They always seem to have a pretty good offense out there under Mike Gundy. Defense is going to be the issue with Oklahoma State, and inconsistency. Oklahoma State, they play some weeks, they look really, really good, then they turn around and lose to a bad team the next week. They're very up and down. Yet to really put together a consistently good season, a season where they play their best football every single week. If Oklahoma State does that, I think they can finish a top 10 team, not just start here at number 10. I think they could actually finish as a top 10 team and maybe even push Oklahoma, Texas, whoever else you want to throw in there in competing for the Big 12 title in 2020. But I've got Oklahoma State sitting at number 10. At number 9, Auburn. Auburn's a difficult team for me to judge. For one thing, their schedule is difficult. Of course, they're in the SEC West, so they play Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M. Their cross-division rival, they play Georgia, a top 5 team. Very difficult schedule. Auburn could go 8-2. Remember, we're on 10-game schedules in the SEC, so Auburn could go 8-2. Probably wouldn't surprise me. Auburn could go 5-5. That probably wouldn't surprise me either. Gus Malzahn's been very inconsistent year to year at Auburn. Bo Nix, year 2. How much, if any, will he improve? I think he'll improve some. You usually see a quarterback get better from year 1 to year 2, especially when their year 1 was their true freshman year, and he, of course, played and started every single game last year for the Barn. Big win over Alabama before losing in the bowl game, I believe, to Minnesota, right? Should be a pretty good team. Again, the schedule is difficult, hard to predict a record. I think it makes sense to have them in the top 10, though, at least right now, and I've got them at number 9. At number 8, the Texas Longhorns. Are they back? I don't know. I don't think they're going to lose 5 games like they did last year, going 7-5 or whatever it was. Not sure they can win the Big 12 or make a playoff or anything like that. Probably somewhere in the middle would be my pick. Can they get past Oklahoma? Can they avoid losing a head-scratching game like they seem to do almost every year, sometimes multiple times a year? Really getting close to put up or shut up time, in my opinion, for Tom Herman. Now, because of the coronavirus, I don't think any coaches are getting fired at the end of this year, so that's not what I'm suggesting for Tom Herman. However, it is time for him to start doing something and doing something more consistently. Yes, they had the 1 year where they won 10 games and went to the Sugar Bowl and beat UGA. Outside of that, though, it's really been a failure at Texas so far, in my opinion, for Tom Herman. This is Ellinger's last year there. They got to find a ground game. The defense has got to get back to playing like it was a couple of years ago as opposed to playing like it was last year. And if they can do that, maybe they can try to find a way to win the Big 12. Not sure if I would predict that right now, but I think it makes sense to have them in the top 10 at number 8. Number 7, I have LSU. LSU was the ranking that I probably caught the most flack for when I did my preseason poll last time. I had them at number 9. I haven't been very high on LSU this offseason. They're losing 15 or 16 starters and Joe Brady and Joe Burrow. I know you're talented, LSU fan, extremely talented. The problem is you've been extremely talented as long as anybody can remember. But other than last year, you've just had a hard time playing at the level you need to play at week in and week out. Your offense has been borderline bad at times. And I'm not sure if 1 year of offensive coordinator Joe Brady is enough to permanently instill a change in that program. Now, we'll find out. You add to that, and this is some news since last time I did the preseason poll. In fact, this news just sort of started to come out yesterday and this morning. Jamar Chase is probably not playing this year. The best receiver on LSU, no doubt. Probably the best receiver in the SEC. Probably the best receiver in America. That's a huge blow. You had already lost a couple of big weapons offensively off of last year's team. Joe Brady, a running back, another wide receiver. Lost a ton of talent on the defensive side of the ball. I know you're talented. I know you recruit well. It's just hard for me to imagine LSU winning the West right now. This is a big blow losing Jamar Chase. You moved up from my last poll, but that was really just a product of teams ahead of you canceling the season. I'm not very high on LSU. I'm sort of giving them the respect I think they deserve. They're 15-0 last year, national champions. I'm not going to just put them out of the top 10. I mean, they are a talented team, but it's not like they're Alabama or Clemson, these teams that have been, making the playoffs year after year after year, no matter who the quarterback is, no matter who the offensive coordinator is, turnover, all that kind of stuff doesn't seem to matter. They just keep getting to the playoffs. Oklahoma. LSU made it one time. Now, they made it count, like I said, going 15-0, winning it all, national champions. And, nobody can take that away from you. I have to be convinced, though, that what I saw last year from LSU is going to translate to 2020. I have to see it on the field. I'm just being honest before I really start to give LSU the respect they feel like, their fans feel like they deserve. I've got them at number 7. Number 6, I've got Notre Dame. Very interesting season for Notre Dame here. We could see Notre Dame playing a conference title game for the first time and the last time. There's some chatter about Notre Dame permanently joining the ACC after this year. I don't see it happening. They're too stubborn and too hard-headed. They don't want a 13th game. It's just an extra hurdle that they have to get over for no reason. They're probably going to play Clemson twice this year. They're probably going to lose to Clemson twice this year. I do think Notre Dame is good enough to repeat or get back to the ACC title game for a chance at a rematch with Clemson. They host Clemson at Notre Dame. They could play again in the ACC title game. I do think Notre Dame and Clemson are the two best teams in the ACC. Feels weird saying that about Notre Dame. North Carolina's getting a lot of buzz. I think Virginia Tech is a decent team. Miami, to me, is kind of the wild card. I think Miami is probably the second most talented team in the SEC. No, I'm not. ACC. No, I'm not trolling. I really believe that. You look at Miami over the last few years, quarterback position has really held them back in my eyes. Is Derek King a Heisman candidate or a first-round draft pick next year in the NFL? No. Or De'Aaron King? But he's the best quarterback Miami's had in a while. And, it hurts that they lose their defensive tackle or whatever. But anyway, what am I talking about Miami for? Notre Dame is ranked 6th. Ian Book is back. Brian Kelly wins 10 games a year. Seems like every year he had the one really bad year where I think he won 3 or 4 games. Other than that, seems like he wins 10 games without even trying. Do I think they can beat Clemson? No. Do I think they can win the ACC? No. Do I think they're making the playoffs? No. But it'll be interesting to watch Notre Dame play a full conference schedule one year with a possibility of making a conference championship game. We'll see. Number 5, I've got Florida. Florida reminds me really of a lot of teams in the SEC. I think you're going to have a lot of good teams in the SEC that could end up with 3 or 4 losses. I think if you can get to 6 or 7 wins this year in the SEC, you're a pretty good team. If you can get to 8 or 9, you're really good. And if you are 7 or 8, you're really good. 9 or 10, you're probably one of the best 4 teams in America. Extremely difficult. Florida's good. A lot of hype heading into the season. They had a scare. They had 3 of their top wide receivers threaten to sit out the season because of the coronavirus and just enter the draft, plus a defensive end. All 4 of those guys have decided to go ahead and play. Huge deal to Florida to not lose those guys. Kyle Trask finally going into the season now as a starter. The first time Kyle Trask has headed into the season as a starting quarterback since he was in 8th grade 7 years ago. Hard to believe, but it's true. Played pretty good last year, surprised a lot of people, replacing Felipe Franks when he got injured in the Kentucky game. Can he pick up where he left off last year? We're going to find out. There's tape on him now. Teams will be better able to prepare for him now. We'll see how much that matters, if at all. Florida's got a difficult schedule, too. They got to play Georgia. They got to play LSU. Do they play – is it Texas A&M they play? I believe it is, in Texas A&M. Not an easy schedule for Florida, but no SEC team has an easy schedule. Anyway, I've got them at number 5. Could they win the East? Yeah, they could. Could they win the SEC? No, I don't think they can. I think that winning the East, I think, would be Florida's ceiling this year. I don't expect that to happen. I think Georgia wins the East again, although Florida is capable of beating Georgia. They could win it. I'm not saying they have no chance, but my pick to win the East is going to be Georgia. But I think it's fair to have Florida at number 5 here heading into week 1. Number 4, I've got Oklahoma. Oklahoma is always one of the most difficult teams for me to rank. Why? I do feel like Oklahoma is probably one of the best 4 or 5 teams in America. No question about it. Their offense is going to be lights out. I don't even think it matters who plays quarterback there anymore. Their defense is also going to be pitiful. We just know that. They can say what they want. You know, we brought in Alex Grinch. We got this guy. We recruited this guy. Oklahoma's defense has been so bad for so long. Again, it's one of those things. I'm going to have to see something before I believe it when it comes to Oklahoma's defense, right? As good as Oklahoma's offense has been, that's a given. It's also a given that the defense is bad. And again, I'm going to expect Oklahoma's offense to be good until I'm proven wrong, and I'm going to expect their defense to be bad until I'm proven wrong. I've got them at number 4. People are tired of seeing them make the playoff. That's why it's hard for me to rank them. I do think they're one of the best 4 or 5 teams. They're going to be the favorite to win the Big 12. They could go 8-2, 9-1, 10-0 in the regular season, get to the Big 12 title game, win it, and be right back in the playoffs for the 5th year in a row. Yet to win a single playoff game, but it seems like they're there every single year. New quarterback this year, Spencer Rattler. Breaking news, he'll have 4,500 yards and 45 touchdowns. That's just, again, does it matter who the quarterback is at Oklahoma? I honestly don't think so. But we'll see. If they get to the playoffs, can they finally get over the hump and win a game? I don't know. I've got them at number 4. They will probably bounce around a lot in my poll because if I'm impressed with any team 5 through 10, I'm liable to move them up ahead of Oklahoma because I'm going to be honest, I'm just tired of seeing Oklahoma in the playoff just getting mollywopped every single year. But I've got them at number 4. Number 3, I've got UGA. I think that's fair. I think every poll right now has UGA 3. Most polls had them 4. Ohio State dropped out. Makes sense to move them up to 3. They return almost everybody on defense, a defense that was the best in America last year. Didn't give up a single rushing touchdown to a running back all of last year. Great pass defense. Got to improve the, got to get more sacks. Got to improve the quarterback pressure a little bit. Other than that, hard to find a weakness on Georgia's defense. Offensively, you lose Jake Fromm and you lose a few offensive linemen. You lose DeAndre Swift. No one's worried about Georgia's running back situation. Anybody that pays any attention to college football knows they're loaded there. The offensive line, replacing a lot of starters, but we had a lot of injuries on the offensive line last year, so all but one of the guys that's going to start for Georgia on the offensive line this year has a ton of experience. That one guy, Broderick Jones, I believe, will be the starting right tackle. He's a true freshman, but the other 4 guys have a ton of experience. Now, they got to learn to play together as a unit. An offensive line plays best when they play together, and that's something that only can happen over time. So I expect UJ's offensive line to get better as the year goes along. We'll see. Wide receivers, George Pickens, a couple of exciting freshmen. Demetrius Robertson's last year. Is he finally going to live up to the hype and the potential that everyone thought he had? We'll see. Freshman running back Milton comes in. You got Zeus back, James Cook. They're loaded there. Transfer tight end Trey McKitty from Florida State, plus all-world recruit Darnell Washington. This guy's just an absolute freak in nature. He's like 6'8", runs like a gazelle, catches anything you throw his way. I expect him to play a lot. He's one of the freshmen I'm really looking forward to seeing this year. I've got Georgia at 3. And then 1 and 2, you can put them in any order you want. You can even call it 1A and 1B. I've got Bama 1, Clemson 2. Main reason I got Bama over Clemson, I'll be honest, I think Clemson's probably a little bit better than Alabama right now. I think Bama's pissed off, and that's not good for the rest of college football. I think Nick Saban is pissed off, and I think Alabama's pissed off. What were they, 10 and 2 in the regular season last year? Didn't even make the playoffs, didn't even make a New Year's Six Bowl. That's not acceptable for Alabama. Now, most teams would be ecstatic to have the season that Alabama had last year. But every team's not Alabama. They've made the playoffs every single year. They've won a bunch of national titles. It seems like they're in the mix every single year, and that wasn't really the case last year. Mac Jones returns as a starting quarterback. Bryce Young, true freshman. I wouldn't be surprised if he takes over the starting job at some point, but I think Mac Jones plays week 1. I think we'll also see Bryce Young, but I think Mac Jones will be your starter. Najee Harris returns for Bama, which was a big surprise to me. They lose a couple of wide receivers, but they got a couple coming back, and they've got 3 or 4 just waiting in the wings. They'll have one of the best offensive lines in America. Their defense, and this is where a lot of people are dropping the ball on Alabama. They look at Alabama's defense the last couple of years, particularly last year, and they think that Alabama's defense is sort of going downhill. Well, that was true the last couple of years. Their defenses the last 2 years did not live up to what we're used to seeing from an Alabama-coached defense. Look how many freshmen they played on defense last year, though. They get almost everybody back on defense. They started 2 freshmen inside linebackers last year. They had freshmen all over the field. Injuries killed them. Alabama's defense is going to be closer to what you're used to it being than what we saw last year. Alabama's defense is going to be really, really good. They're going to be tough for anybody to beat, no matter who they play, no matter where they play it, no matter what point in the season they play it. Alabama's going to be a difficult out for anybody. The same can be said for Clemson. Trevor Lawrence, best quarterback in football. Travis Etienne decides to return again. Blew my mind. I can't believe it. Athletes all over the field at wide receiver. They did lose was it Justin Ross? They did lose to injury. You hate to see that. Defense, again, loaded with NFL draft picks over there, and they're in the ACC. Is Clemson going undefeated for what would be the 3rd year in a row in the ACC? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say Clemson goes 9-1. It's going to be hard for anybody to go undefeated this year, I think. Could it happen? Sure, of course it could happen. But you look at even Alabama, they got to play 10 SEC teams. Look at Clemson, got to play 10 ACC teams. Look at Oklahoma, got to play 10. Well, Oklahoma always got to play Big 12. Maybe Oklahoma goes undefeated. That would be it. I wouldn't be surprised if Clemson catches a loss somewhere. I don't know if it'll be to one of the better teams like Notre Dame. Maybe someone catches them napping like North Carolina almost did last year. And that's not a knock on Clemson. I still think Clemson is one of the best teams in the country. I still think Clemson is going to win the ACC, and I still think Clemson is going to make the playoffs. Just going to be very difficult, I think, for anybody to go 10-0. Clemson could do it, though. There it is. That's my top 10 poll. Be sure and let me know down below where you think I'm wrong. Again, sorry for the absence. I was gone for about a week, but I've really been busting my ass trying to get everything finished up in here before the college football season starts, which again really is this coming up weekend. We got a game on Thursday. We got several games on Saturday. I'll be streaming Thursday night starting at 8 o'clock over on the second channel, the live channel. Link in the description. Make sure you're subscribed to the second channel for all my live shows. Uncle Lou on YouTube. Just click the link. It'll take you over there. Appreciate you guys watching. Have a good morning.